armies draw near, and to my prayer incline, in arts gymnastic and in fraud divine.
Dire weapon of the tongue which men revere, be present, Hermes, and thyself plant here.
Welcome to Third Eye Bind, episode 56, Superstitions. Do you want to hear something funny?
I do want to hear something funny.
My top fell off in pole class. Like fully.
So tell me about what led up to this moment and what followed.
All right, so here's the thing. I asked my friend Danica, like, can you wear swimsuits or swimwear to pole class? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. Why not? And I was like, okay. So I went through because I don't have a lot of stuff for that, but so I went through my swimwear bag and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I wore a swim top with like dance shorts. And the problem with the top was that the back is not a tie back. It's one of the slidey, the interlocking ones that can easily pop off.
Risky.
And I decided to wear this top to a like work the floor class, which it was very difficult and lots of rolling and things. And I should not have worn that to the class. And I was basically on all fours doing something and it just popped. So my hands weren't even there to just catch it. It was just like, it just popped off. And I was like, huh. And then I sort of just put it back on and like, I don't think very many people noticed, but the woman behind me definitely did. And I was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, I liked it. And I was like, you're welcome. It's a free, made some jokes. And I was like, this is the perfect place to have your top fall off with a bunch of just like fellow women not giving a shit. Like,
absolutely.
It was cool. But that happened. And I was like, wow, that's the first time that's ever happened to me in all my years of dance related activities. So
well, there's a first time for everything.
There is a first time for everything. So that was fun.
That would be the time and place.
It was the right time and place. But yeah, I will just be wearing my sports bras to these more athletic classes.
That seems fair.
Or a tie top back, because a tie top back would have been fine.
Yeah.
But
except that sometimes on the tie top, they like slidey slide around the triangles. They're like, oop, I'm over here
a
now.
slidey slide would be, I mean, it was a full disrobe. Like it went boop and just booped. And I was like, oh my God. And I had a sweater. So I was like, this is going to happen again.
You came to perform.
So I had to put the sweater on and just danced in the sweater the rest of the class, which was fine. Because I was rolling around on the floor.
Incredible.
So that was fun.
A little bit liberating.
I was like, all right, And then it's funny, after the class, I went up to this woman and because I felt we had a bond at that point. And I was like, oh, sorry again. You're welcome for the show again or something. And then I saw she had a shell tattoo on her shoulder. And I was like, oh, I love your tattoo. Like, I'm a big Venus person. And she's like, oh my God, me too. And I was like, look at my tattoo. And I went, tee, okay, bye.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was cute. So she was definitely the right person to see that.
Absolutely.
A fellow Venus lover.
Loves tits.
Venus loves tits. Well, hi, I'm Loretta.
And I'm Caitlin.
And welcome to another extravagant, wonderful, beloved edition of Third Eye Bind.
Third Eye Bind.
The tits edition.
The tits edition.
All
JK.
tits, no jokes. I don't know what that means.
Sign up for our OnlyFans.
OnlyFans coming soon. We joke, but we're getting closer.
But listen, it's hard out there. Groceries have increased in price by 25% since 2020.
Pickles?
It might be the way to go.
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, we could call it like, I don't know. Third Eye Bind is like a music reference. You could call our OnlyFans like Venus and Furs or something.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Look, we might do it. And I think most of you would be okay with that. So
So
And
thank
if you're
you.
not, I don't care.
Then I don't know why you're here.
Yeah. Skip. Go away.
Weird.
Weird. Go watch something else. Go watch Joe Rogan or something. But don't. I threw up in my mouth.
Just at the mention of his name.
Knock on wood, he won't appear here ever again.
Honestly, though, if he popped up in the comments, it would probably just boost us on the
so
algorithm.
knock on wood, maybe he
maybe
does
he
show
will.
up. Oh. Knocking on wood.
What are we talking about this week, Laura?
Well, today we are talking about
superstitions.
I'm very excited to talk about superstitions. Very superstitious. Yeah.
But before we get into all of the good stuff on our show, we just wanted to remind you that, well, invite you really to take a moment, like, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, if you will, leave comments if you're watching on YouTube. Help us out.
Help us out. We are an independently run podcast. And if you like hanging out with us every week, do that.
Yes. And if you really love us, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thirdeye-bind.
For as little as $5 a month.
Yes. Please support our good work, our mission.
That's one less coffee for you.
Just one. Have them both. Who cares? Put it on a firm.
Can you
The
affirm-
coffee, not Patreon.
Not our Patreon. That's not an option. Oh, God.
Or check out our merch. We have some really cool t-shirts, mugs, hats. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, the hats are really cute.
I've seen a few people post
Yeah.
themselves in the hats. It's
nice.
real cute.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're actually really cute.
We
So-
actually just received some custom merch. It's one of a kind.
Okay, so our previous guest, Sam Shar of Toil and Trouble, the soap company that Caitlin also collaborates with on their soaps, sent us the most amazing gift I have ever even conceived of receiving. And I'm going to read the note that came with it. Okay. There's a note and it's styled. I don't know if you can really see it, but it's styled as if it's one of their product like cards. So it's not just a note. It's just a whole product. Say hello to the Mercury Orb. Ask the orb a yes or no question and let it divinely answer. Example questions. Mercury, do I treat myself to a coffee today? No, you don't. You join our Patreon. Do you sense a spirit, Mercury Orb? Mercury, should I rewatch Saltburn again? Yes. And then there is an asterisk and it says, Toil and Trouble is not responsible if this tool reads you for filth. So that's amazing. And then also a lovely note. Howdy, Third Eye Bind. This isn't an award, but I hope you consider it shelf-worthy regardless. Stay magical, Sam, friend of the pod. Okay, are we ready for this?
And the reason
Jelly?
why Sam made a joke about an award is because we still have yet to receive our Witchcraft and Occult Media Award. Laura made us one and laminated it,
From
but
some very lazy pagans.
we
All right?
wouldn't mind a trophy.
I want my damn trophy.
So a plaque,
I'm
a
upset.
medal.
I'm concerned. I'm upset. It's fine. Whatever.
Just saying.
But you know what? We don't need this anymore. We don't need it. You know why? Because now we have the Mercury Orb.
The Mercury Orb.
I'm going to let you open it.
Everything
because,
is
you haven't seen
branded,
it.
by the way. Like, Sam went above and beyond, and like the boxes in our purple. But
I'm
look,
so
it's our logo.
Take it out.
It's okay. It's like a
What?
baby.
Here, I'll hold.
You wanna hold the box? Oh, I bumped your
You
nails.
need to play with that thing.
Look at this gorgeous. Look at her,
it.
the most beautiful girl in the world.
It is a converted magic 8-ball.
You should really be watching if you're not watching.
It is
So-
essentially, if you're not watching, it is a round
I didn't realize that
purple.
even
what?
in the hole. Oops, even in the hole, it's silver glitter.
Yeah, there's silver
everything
glitter.
is branded.
It is a molded, converted magic 8-ball with it's purple and it looks like our little third eye logo. and it works. So
Oh, I'm holding it upside down.
yeah. Oh. But look at it. It's amazing. It's better than any award. I need to get a cute little
What should we
crystal ball
ask
holder.
the Mercury Orb?
Are we going to have a bitchin' show today?
Reply hazy, try again.
Burned. Read us for filth.
I love it.
I'm
So
gonna
thank
put
you,
this
Sam.
right here until I get a better little crystal.
That works though. That's a good stand.
I love it. It looks like a trophy.
This really is a trophy.
You know
Thank you,
what?
Sam.
Yeah, I'm into that.
And you can check out Sam Shar's work at toilandtrouble.com or at Vibecaster. Sam is also a longtime web designer, does all of those things like SEO and UEX and all that shit that I don't fucking know how to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, ribbit.
Ribbit.
Sam actually just helped me with a brand new rebranding. So if you check out my website, it's really fabulous. And that's all because of Sam.
Nice. Amazing. And also you can see Sam featured on our episode on queer magic.
Yes.
I think it was season 2 or 3.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
Yeah. Ooh, but back to superstitions.
Back to superstitions. Look, it matches.
Everything matches.
Everything matches. And that's on Laura's branding.
Yeah. So let's pull
Let's pull a card.
a card on superstitions.
I can't stop singing the song.
I mean, it's going to be in a reel or something when we pull video from this episode.
Ooh. That's it. I always get so nervous.
Me too. What is it?
I don't get it.
What is it?
I pulled the Page of Pentacles. And
Okay.
you know what? I do get it. Here we go. So pages are messengers. Pages bring news. They bring information. They're the informer.
I like it, boom, boom, down.
They are the informer, right? They're here to bring the news. And pentacles are the suit not only of earth and resources, but also our connection to our families, our communities, and our ancestry. And what is a superstition other than some news, some juice, some speculation that gets passed on through oral tradition through the many different generations or throughout the community?
Yeah.
So actually this makes perfect sense because these superstitions don't just come out of thin air.
Yeah. No.
They come out of something happening. They're developed and
through trauma or something.
Something.
And we'll get into some cool examples. So I'll start off because I have notes today.
Me too.
And I have this really fun book we will be using later.
I'm really excited for the book.
So the definition traditionally of superstitions is any belief or practice considered by non-practicers to be irrational or supernatural. So essentially a belief that goes against logic, or the norm. Sounds like witchcraft to me. Witchcraft could also be the definition of witchcraft or magic, right? It can also be referred to, also refers to a religion not practiced by the majority of a given society. So anything that is, again, outside of what is considered to be the truth or the dogma of the times. And what is interesting about superstitions, and I think sort of why they've permeated still through time, is that societies aren't really based in just scientific knowledge, right? We're all still sort of, there's religions are prevalent. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're unreal. There's still this, we don't live in a straight lined, logical world. So it's sort of interesting that these things
That also makes me think,
happen.
when I was prepping for this episode, I was like, I don't know any superstitions. I don't know any
Any
superstitions.
that you grew up with that you can think of that you've practiced?
Well, then once my mom and I sat down, we're like, oh, these are things other people would think are superstitions. And it took me like changing my perspective of what I was looking for to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because I was like, these are all just things that happen and we talk about.
Right.
But my mom was like, no, like these are things that other people would say are superstitions. I'm like, oh,
Like, give me an example.
thought that's just a way of life. So like a hat on the bed means death is coming. You don't put your hat on your bed.
Oh, is that something that you've like practiced?
That's
and
one.
stuff?
And then like a purse on the floor. You don't leave your purse on the floor because the money will walk out.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
I like that.
Your ears itching means somebody's talking about you.
Oh.
And that's like one of my favorite ones. And whenever my mom, like sometimes I'll talk about my mom and then she'll call me. And as soon as I answer, I'm like, were your ears itching? Were your ears burning?
Oh, I like that one.
And then another itchy one is when your palms are itching, it means money is coming, but you're not supposed to scratch it.
Oh, you just let it happen.
You just let it happen. You let you got to write it out.
That's interesting.
Because if you scratch it, then the money won't come.
I love that.
Yeah.
Huh.
But those are things, I have more and we'll get into them, but I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. I'm like, I don't know any superstition. Or I was like, but what you said is like, it's only a superstition to people who are outside of the realm of belief.
That's what it is.
And so I'm like, oh, that's why. That's why we don't think they're superstitions.
No.
They're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They seem logical to us.
Yeah, isn't it? It's a very interesting concept, and it's not unlike it's not really super odd to me as a witch, or like, because it's like sort of the practices themselves are there's a lot of superstitions in witchcraft and things like that, and about witchcraft and things like that. But
broom falls, company's coming. Blood on the moon.
Blood on the moon. There's a lot of them in practical magic. The whole end with, plant lavender for luck. Keep rosemary by the garden gate.
Those could be considered superstitions.
Fall in love whenever you can is just sordid advice. But spilled salt over your left shoulder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do that one too. Over the left shoulder.
Yeah.
Over the left shoulder.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And people have like tried to understand how as humans superstition fits into our evolution and things like that.
Oh.
There's this guy named B.F. Skinner, which, what a name. He's a sciencey guy. In 1948, he came up with a theory by studying pigeons and how they would do these little ritual moves, like before they would get food, or like they would do things that were irrational, but like they kept doing them based on like what they thought or didn't think was going to happen, sort of a thing.
What?
And he called it the partial reinforcement effect. And basically, whenever an individual performs an action expecting a reinforcement and nothing happens, it creates a sense of persistence. So like, if it works, like, oh, that didn't happen, like then it creates a sense of like confidence, and like they'll do it again and again and again. And it almost creates like meaning for the thing, even though there's no like tangible evidence. That it's kind of weird and sciencey, but it's sort of like
he's
this
like
belief.
He's like mansplaining magic rituals.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But it's funny when science tries to like
make sense.
They try to make sense of these things. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. And then he was saying that like, that in turn, like, evolution favors those who like practice things like that.
Oh,
because
so it gives you an advantage.
It's like gives you inner power, right? And I'm like, what's magic? It's essentially inner power. So I was like, oh, interesting.
I wasn't expecting it to go that way. Yeah. I was expecting him to be like, these pigeons are stupid.
No. It was like he was saying that there's some sort of advantage
value
to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, or to explain why we do it psychologically. I thought that was interesting.
Our superstitions can help keep us safe.
Yeah, or to feel safe. And I think when something like you said has been passed down for so long and repeated and reinforced, the persistence, the reinforcement, I do think it creates actual validity, and that's ritual, right? Like that's spells, and that's knowledge and whatever tidbits of folklore that you have in your lineage. Like that really can, it almost like a tulpa in like how they talk about creating entities by just talking about them. Like it's sort of like that. You're creating like a standard and a rule that you know, depending on where you come from, you have all these different fun little weird things.
I love it.
Yeah.
I guess now I'm thinking of like the flip side of, I feel like there are superstitions from non-magic, like the fear of the number 13. 13 is an unlucky number.
Oh yeah, like a lot of them come from like the demonization
Of not Christian
of Christians being like, that's evil. Like the Friday the 13th one.
Yeah.
'Cause I looked up the meaning of a lot of like common ones that we have, comes from something from the Bible about Judas being the 13th guest at the dinner. And then he got crazy. It's like kind of trickstery, I guess.
Okay.
And then Loki in Norse mythology, same thing. There was like a hot dinner and like he came at the 13th guest and like shit up.
As
And
Loki does.
They're like, no. And then also in the 19th century, Friday was the day that executions would happen.
Interesting.
So it was sort of like an unlucky, it was like a mix of those things, allegedly.
Okay.
But isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like a combo.
That's interesting. I also kind of remember learning something about how like Friday is Venus's day, 13 is like a very like sacred feminine number. And like I think all of those things mixed together make a lot of sense why some people would be, especially people who are like Bible clutching, would fear something like the number 13. But to the point, like that one's gotten so
there's tattoo flash days about it,
which is fun.
which is so fun.
But like most hotels and apartment buildings still don't have a 13th floor.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. There's a whole, I forgot the name of it. It's some long thing, but like people fear the number 13.
Oh yeah,
it's
like a trip to something.
A trip to something phobia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're scientists.
Yeah.
We're girls of
It's
science.
not important. What is important is just how mixed these things are.
And for you and I, we're like, that's bonkers. Like 13's not unlucky, but I guess on the outside looking in, people would look at our superstitions and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Like you mentioned spilling salt, like it's some of these are like dead hilarious. Like I looked up spilling salt and it was like, well, salt was expensive back then, so like literally that's the reason. Like don't spill the salt.
I wonder why it's the left shoulder though.
I don't know.
I'm so curious about
but
that.
also spilling salt during like in a magical sense, like during a ritual.
Yeah.
Because salt was like sacred, was like inviting the devil in or like,
ooh, not the devil.
ooh, naughty. Maybe it's to just be like, no, the devil won't see it.
Maybe.
If I throw it over my shoulder and pretend it didn't happen.
Because
like,
sometimes the left is considered like the hidden path and the right is
like
considered the visible path. So maybe that's why you throw it over your left shoulder?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do that though.
Me too. Every fucking time. You better believe
I do
it.
I do that.
That's one I never miss.
No, there's so many fun ones. And gosh, there's so many good ones. What else? Okay, Groundhog Day.
Oh, yeah.
That just happened.
That's a superstition.
There's so many that we actively participate in as a nation
that?
because it comes from a Germanic practice of Candlemas. Like,
so it's pagan.
Ish. Churchy pagan. But they would basically give them candles to like guessing how long the winter was going to last was like a fun thing to do in Germany because it gets cold. Because
what else are you doing?
What else are you going to do? A lot of these things are like, oh, when is this going to be over? You know? So they would give them these candles and then they would they were blessed candles and they would guess how long like the candles got. I don't know. But then they started to study the animals' hibernation patterns to guess like, you know, hey, is the badger? And it was badgers for them. It was like the badger is the thing. Let's watch the badgers. And then when they immigrated to like Pennsylvania, that's where the Germans went. That's probably where my ancestors went. They were like, well, they don't have any badgers here. I guess beavers are the thing to watch. So they're like, that's the closest thing to a badger. And that's why Groundhog Day is a thing. Oh, groundhog, not a beaver. What am I talking about?
I know
Wait,
what
are
you meant.
groundhogs beavers?
I don't water
Because
beavers are water animals.
Is the tuna fish or chicken? It's like Jessica Simpson.
The kids won't get it, but
kids
I
won't get
loved it.
Wait, is this chicken or is this fish?
Is this chicken or is this fish? Because it says
that's
chicken
my Jessica Simpson
of
moment.
the sea.
Chicken of the sea.
For those of you who are new to Earth, Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey, who is the host of Love is Blind, which you know. Nick Lachey was in a band called 98 Degrees, and it was by far the most embarrassing of all the boy bands of the 2000s.
Yeah.
But you better believe I knew their songs.
Oh, me too.
I don't know who. No, that one's Backstreet Boys.
No.
What did they sing?
I do cherish you.
Oh, that's what they sang.
for the rest of... And
Who
there's some
sang
other
the
ones.
song that was like, I like girls who wear
Oh, that's
Abercrombie and Fitch.
LFO.
LFO. Wow, saturated. The market was saturated. But the
Ew.
point is, Nick Lachey was in a band called 98 Degrees, and he married Jessica Simpson, who was in her prime. Okay? Like the hottest she had ever been on the charts. Just on fire, right?
Yeah.
And then they had this show because it was at a time when MTV only did reality shows about families. So we had
The
Osbournes, which was wild.
Wild.
Okay. It was a
Wilder
different
than
time.
they are now, which is saying a lot.
Like, okay. So we had the Osbournes. The Kardashians were on a different channel, but they had just come out too.
Yeah.
And we had, what was it
Newlyweds?
called? Newlyweds. It was called Newlyweds. And they had just built their new house in Calabasas, I think.
That was a nice house.
And it followed their cringe relationship. Yes. And if you can find it on YouTube, you should watch it.
You should,
because
they definitely have this clip where she, I think understandably, was like, is this chicken or is this fish?
Because it's called Chicken of the Sea.
I think it's a legitimate question. And she got like just
so much for it.
bombarded. I mean, it's a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
And it's funny. And
But we love her for it.
We love
don't
her
hate
for
her
it.
for it. We love her for
you
it.
ask whatever you need to ask, okay? So
Right. There
is
are
a
no bad
groundhog a
questions.
beaver? I don't know.
Anyways, we are pro bimbo.
Yeah,
on this show.
exactly. I'm pro bimbo. So now when you think of Groundhog Day, you can think of Jessica Simpson and me.
Tuna fish.
And tuna fish.
Okay, but on like a more serious note, I think what's really cool about the origins of this groundhog practice is that like global indigenous culture shares a common thread
Yeah.
of living in alignment with all of nature, paying attention to how the animals are reacting to their environment. And it's through those practices that we notice like, hey, that fox picked up their babies and moved them up higher. A storm's coming and the river might flood. And I think it's really cool that that's kind of where the beginning of this groundhog superstition comes from. So it wasn't even a superstition to begin with. It was just living smart, like living wise, paying attention to animals.
But now it's a superstition.
Now it's a spectacle.
I guess it is a superstition.
Have you ever
It's
seen
a tradition superstition.
Have you ever seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray?
Yeah, like one time.
My dad used to love that movie, and my sister and I fucking hated it. And he would watch it over and over again. And we're like,
how
how can you
ironic.
watch a movie?
About over and over again, over and over again. Different times. It's like people that like Chevy Chase. I'm like, ew. Ugh. Let's see.
What are some other superstitions? I knew you'd have some that I
have some good ones.
didn't know.
I did all the basics. Okay, so like walking under a ladder is bad luck. We all know that one, right? It comes from ladders being associated with the gallows, which is where people would be hung because you got to get up there somehow. So they would prop a ladder up. And because the execution would take place at the top of the ladder on the platform, the underneath and the bottom of the ladder became like known as haunted. So that was it was like
Why
a weird
wouldn't it
little
be?
space, a liminal space sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of liminal spaces,
These things are logical.
they are logical. This makes spiritual
This
logic
makes
to me.
so much sense.
It does. Speaking of, this makes sense too. Okay. You ever heard the term like step on the crack, you break your mother's back? Like that's a big one that as a kid I was like, I don't like you, Mom. Well, like the cracks in that comes from like it being like a liminal space. Like it's the space between. And if you like mess with anything that's like in between, it might, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like I don't have a better explanation than that, but it's sort of the vibe of like it being this like unknown area.
Okay.
Where there's
I buy that.
damage. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Weird. I guess there was some like possibly racist origins, but I didn't look into that. So there may be some.
Oh no.
I don't know what that's about. So all I know is this version.
What else is new?
Yeah.
Everything is awful.
Shocking. Let's see. Birthday candles. Do you know the origin of birthday candles?
No.
The Greeks used to bake cakes.
Abunt?
Abunt. As offerings to Artemis. And they would blow out the candle and the smoke would take the wish up to the gods. And we still do that. And it's so
cute.
Awesome. I would say birthday candles are probably the thing we do the most, the thing that's most known. There's two.
I guess it is a superstition.
This and bless you when somebody sneezes are the most common ones do you know why we do that?
Is it a plague thing?
No.
Oh, what is it?
It's basically, I don't know where it maybe originates from that time, but when you sneeze, your soul is going to leave your body for a minute.
That makes sense to me.
And you have to bless somebody so that the devil doesn't come and snatch it.
Snatch it! I fucking love that.
Isn't that cool?
I am obsessed.
Yeah. So it's just crazy how these are ingrained in us. Like, and we don't even know that what we're doing is like we're carrying out these superstitions like on the daily.
The sneeze one.
Olive Garden will sing you a song and then you blow out a candle. And it's like, how cool is that? That those things like, they will. I just went there. Isn't that cool? Boca de Pepo will sing you a song. I don't know if they do.
They do, and they bring you a candlestick, and you blow out the like candlestick.
I like that.
It's kind of fun. Yeah.
That's just like ancient Greek, pagan, witchy,
witchy shit.
like, yeah. It's as fuck. It's
I'm
crazy.
obsessed.
So those are great. And perhaps my favorite of these is the knocking on wood. Do you know the knocking on wood?
I do that all the time.
I do that too.
I'm always knock, knock, knock.
Do you want to know why?
Yeah, I want to know why.
So pagans would believe, as you do when you're an animist, as we are, you believe that there's spirits in trees and everything, and also trees, and they would knock on the trunks to summon them for protection. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And also, they would knock to thank them when a good deed had been done. I know, it makes me want to fucking cry because we do that. Isn't that the most beautiful thing ever?
I love that.
So when we're talking about something that may or may not happen, we're knocking because they're not trees anymore, Caitlin.
Because they're all stuff now. I know.
Okay. Wow. Didn't think I was going to cry in this episode, but like, yeah, like that instinct to like knock
on wood.
On the wood. Oof. It's a lot. That's so beautiful, isn't it?
It is. Oh,
and everybody does that.
Everybody does that.
As a precaution, as a, don't jinx.
Just in case.
it.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Like is jinx a racist term?
I don't think so.
I like said it all quiet because I was like, I don't know. Is it racist?
Right?
It sounds like it would be. I just got a ringing in my ear. Okay. Yeah. That's nice. Do you get that a lot? I get like, and I don't have tinnitus or something. It's like,
yeah, I have it too.
I just get, yeah.
My kids have it too. It's like a.
It's like like a high-pitched ring.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not racist. Cool.
No.
But yeah, so like we can say it, okay.
I know, because sometimes you learn things and you're like, I had no
Just
idea.
double checking at this point.
Whoa.
That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, and I will never forget that now.
That's really cool. And the tradition that I come from, we knock on the altar 3 times when we're about to like open up conversation with them or when we're leaving offerings, and it's to like wake up the spirits. So
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that we find that tradition like repeated in different places with different people.
The act of knocking is pretty fascinating, as it's in paranormal and like ghosts and they do that too. Like it's almost like I want to say universal,
like language,
but it's like a language of just like alive things to do, like knocking, the act of hitting something 3 times or just not that act of knocking, and that sound like represents like an awakening or an alerting, or like when someone knocks on your door.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we kick the door? You know, like, I mean, like, knock, knock, like, why don't you use your foot? Like, it's weird. It's a weird thing if you think
There's
about
magic.
Yeah.
In your hands.
And like, it's so interesting.
Oh, that's delicious. That's
Yeah.
juicy. I love that one.
I loved that one. I loved that one a lot. And the last one I have is umbrellas indoors were from ancient Egypt. They would protect themselves from the sun with umbrellas.
Yeah.
And if they opened it inside, it was disrespectful to the sun god to do that. Oh. So, yeah.
And that's why we don't open umbrellas
Yeah.
indoors.
And also, I guess later in like Britain or whatever, the rudimentary like design of an umbrella was so dangerous, you didn't want to open it inside because it would poke somebody's eye out. There's also that.
That's hilarious.
But isn't that just so interesting?
Oh, I had no idea the origins of these things that are just like a part of our everyday life.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And another
You have
one
one
I
more?
will end on is one of my favorites. And this is one that I practiced when I did theater. And I will not speak it here because I consider this a theater.
Oh.
It's the
I know what you're
Scottish
saying.
play Curse about the play that rhymes with Farfeth? I don't know what it rhymes with.
It's the Denmark one, no?
It's the Scottish play.
Oh, the Scottish one.
Yes.
Denmark
But
is
it's
Hamlet.
called, it rhymes, it's like, okay, McBeasy would be its nickname if it was a rapper.
Did Denzel
McBeasy.
Washington just do a new
Yeah.
version of it? It was good.
But
I
I'm not
watched
saying
it.
that here because
Yeah.
I'll have to go outside, knock. No, I have to go outside, spin around 3 times, curse, and then knock on the door again. And again, the knocking to be let back in. So if you say it in a theater, they will be like, get out. Because like the thing about the Scottish play is it's written by Shakespeare. If it's not obvious, I don't know what to tell you. When Shakespeare wrote it, allegedly, because in the play, if you're not familiar, there's a coven of 3 witches, and they're characters in the play. And this is where Double Double Toil and Trouble comes from. All that stuff is from these 3 witches, and it sort of like perpetuates the 3 archetype that we see in a lot of other things.
The
weird sisters. And so allegedly there was a coven of real witches, because they were there at the time, who were like not okay with him using actual incantations. So they cursed the play. And so that's where the curse comes from. And so whenever the first production of it, like the lead actress died, like there were actually things that happened that were just, Shakespeare had to play Lady McBeasy. And so like, I almost said it, but like like things happen a lot. So that was like, and I actually was in a production of it.
Oh, yeah?
And so that was the thing. And we did not say that in it, but it's my favorite play.
I feel like
his.
theaters have lots of superstitions.
Yeah.
Like even like don't say, you have to say break a leg
Oh yeah, break a leg. I didn't even look up what that.
instead of wishing someone well.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't want to break a leg.
Break
you
a
know?
leg.
It's like wink, wink. Don't break a leg. But yeah, isn't that cool?
That is really cool.
So-
I learned some things today.
Yeah.
I mean-
no, I have another one.
yeah, lay it
Damn
on
it.
us.
Sorry.
No, do it.
This
Share
one's
it.
the best.
Okay.
Chain letters are not a new concept.
Really?
No.
They didn't start with email?
No. Okay, you know those emails you get from your grandma that are like, if you don't repost this, you're gonna. And I see it a lot on Instagram now too. With like my niece will post them and be like, picture of you when you were young or bad luck forever. I'm like, damn it.
I can't believe they brought them back. They found a way to bring chain letters.
It's because of that like
Instagram.
feature where you can now like start a chain thing.
Yeah.
And then people like. But it's not new. I was like,
didn't
what?
know.
So like it's hundreds of years old, and the first chain letter was falsely credited with like Jesus writing it.
I'm dead.
I'm not even kidding you. And it was like, thou must repost this or thou will burn in the Hades of hell, Mordor, Jesus. And people would handwrite letters and send them out, and then they found these letters. Like it's a real thing. So this is not a new concept of someone being like.
I had no idea it started with letters.
I know.
Because I remember in the early days of AOL, when we would get chain emails. Do you
Send
remember
this to 30 people.
Yeah.
You'll die at midnight. Like it was dramatic.
It was scary. They were fucking scary.
It was really scary.
Yeah, it freaked me out when I was little. Yeah,
That's a superstition.
Oh my god!
Okay,
I'm obsessed.
that's the last one, I promise. But isn't that just the greatest thing?
Yes.
I'm obsessed.
All of my superstitions are very Latino. LOL.
No, I love it.
Don't go out at night with wet hair, or you will get sick and die.
Yeah.
Especially bad if it's a full moon. Ooh, just
okay.
start digging the grave right now.
All right.
When you open a bottle of alcohol, you always pour some on the ground for the spirits.
One for the homies.
One for the homies. So it's like for the saints, for the ancestors, for the spirits, you always pour some out on the floor. That's a good one. Acevaches. So we have this little tiny black stone. I think it's onyx, but we call them acevache. And every baby who's born, at least in Cuba, I think they use them in Brazil too. They might use them in other places. Every baby gets that stone put on them, or else they will get hit with the evil eye. Like that's a really big superstition. Mine broke. I don't have it anymore. But like that's a major, major one. The other thing is that babies always have to smell like lavender. Ooh. And I guess it's like a form of spiritual, actually it's violet, excuse me. It's a form of like spiritual protection. Like if you don't make them smell like lavender, like they'll draw in the dark spirits. The wrong spirits will come get them. So like
I believe that.
Every Cuban baby especially smells like agua de violetas.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you just like
I still
dilute
wear
it and sort of rub it on them?
You rub it in their hair, all over
that.
the head.
I love that stuff. It smells so good.
Agua de violetas is the best.
Yes.
And I still wear it. I keep it on my altar.
Yeah.
If a rocking chair is moving by itself, death is near.
Run.
Yeah, it means death is near. That's a big one.
Don't like it.
Spooky.
It's spooky.
Some people say like the youngest member of the family might die.
Oh.
Just because of the connection of rocking chairs to like children and babies. So you never know. And then the other thing that my abuelo told me too is like if you see a penny or you see money on the ground, you do not pick it up. You do not pick it up because it's probably like there's something up with that. There's probably mal de ojo on that.
There's something like
it's on the floor for a reason. Exactly. It's a trick.
That goes against the total opposite of what most people would think. You find a penny, pick it up. All day long, you'll have good luck. And like, no? You never heard that?
My kids are always like...
Mike's never heard that. All right,
You've
that's
never
fine.
heard
My
that?
Chinese
That's so
husband has
funny.
never heard that. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like if it's there and it's enticing you, it's because there's something wrong with it. Don't touch it.
That's good. And it's also probably dirty.
Yeah, I mean, money's already like
Money is pretty
filthy,
nasty.
yeah,
And full of nasty energy, too.
so gross. Yeah, so many people touch
Exchange hands.
Yes.
And we don't know.
Did you ever see Serendipity with
Yes, Mike
John
likes
Cusack.
that movie a lot.
Yes, and they have the dollar where they like write the numbers on the dollar. And it gets
Oh, I
passed
do
around.
remember
That's
that.
so cute.
It's interesting how these things can just collide too. Like, it's funny when I looked up the penny one too, and it wasn't that interesting. It was like, well, back then finding any metal on the ground was cool. That's literally why. Oh, it was valuable in some way.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's like the Great Depression.
No, yeah, seriously, like I love that where it's just like, well, it was valuable, like salt.
Yeah.
It's like, well, don't spill the salt. It's like 20 pences or whatever the currency they had back then.
Well, and I guess back then, like pennies and other coins were actually made out of,
Oh yeah,
like pennies were
brass?
actually
Were they
copper.
Copper, yeah.
Nickels were actually made of nickel.
Yeah,
so
like
they
there
had
is
more value.
There's more value.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Another one that I guess could be considered a superstition, but I'm like, that's not weird, is during an eclipse you stay inside.
Yeah.
And if you are pregnant during an eclipse, you either keep a safety pin by your belly, a silver coin by your belly, or you tie a red ribbon around your belly, and it protects like the little bebe inside of
protects
you.
bebe.
Protects bebe.
I like that. Interesting.
Yes.
The only one I can actively remember, other than like these common ones that I would practice, is when you go over train tracks, you
Yes.
kiss the roof. You kiss your hand and then put it on the roof of the car.
Okay, you know what's interesting?
I don't know why.
I feel like every family has a different
Variation
train
on
track
that
thing.
Yeah, what's up with the
I've
train
never
tracks?
heard that one.
Okay.
But I love it. When I was growing up, my friend taught me that you lift your feet up when you're going over the train tracks. So your
Yeah,
feet aren't touching the bottom of the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had another friend who was like, no, we stomp when we're going over the
we
train
stomp.
tracks.
Okay.
But I guess
was
train tracks are
kissing
kind of a
and doing-
liminal space
They
too.
are and a crossroads.
They're crossroads, yeah. Trickstery.
Maybe you're just offering sort of like, don't mess with me.
Please don't f with me.
They're trickstery because then they
Yeah.
they go, oh, you can't drive now. There's a train coming. You're like, darn it. They are kind of funny.
I feel like there's a lot of
Disruptive.
devil association with the train
Yeah.
tracks too. You
They're
know,
disruptive.
You meet the like vagabond by the train
Yeah,
tracks, and it ends
like,
up being the devil.
ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
God, that's so cool. And what are they made of? Like iron?
I think so. I think so.
I'm going to Google it because I want to know because that might have something to do with
Well,
it.
and in a lot of folk traditions, like having stakes from the train tracks, you can use that as a protection ward in your home.
Yeah.
So that's all really interesting.
That's also a superstition.
Is holding your breath when you go through a tunnel a superstition?
Cast
too?
iron rails and wood. Yeah. Steel, iron, or wood.
Okay.
What did you say? Holding your breath.
Holding your breath
I
in a
was just
tunnel.
going to say that.
Yeah.
Yes. I do that.
Me
That was a
too.
thing too. What is that about?
We hold our breath. But then my husband was like,
Liminal
no, you're
space.
supposed to scream when you're in a tunnel.
Oh, Brian.
So he and my kids are like, ah, and I'm like, no.
That's really
Don't
funny.
scream anytime, please.
It's like these disruptive, like liminal spaces that we have to interact with in a certain way because it's
Yeah.
just different to us. Like, oh no, there's a tunnel.
What
do we do? We gotta
Yeah.
do something because
Yeah.
this is abnormal for a second. Like,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And the train
so cool.
tracks. Because it's disruptive, it's bumpy, it's like a weird thing that's there. Like,
And I guess
if
it does
we
make a
had-
crossroads with the road
Yeah.
and the tracks.
If we had like waterfalls to drive behind or something, like maybe we would have something like that. Like, and maybe in other
Do
countries
people
where they
in
have,
Niagara Falls have
like
a superstition?
maybe just don't go in a barrel. Can you imagine? My goodness, wacky.
The number 13 is reminding me of the Winchester Mansion.
Oh yeah.
And Sarah Winchester.
Well, she definitely had some superstitions.
She was very into superstition, and she was like obsessed with the number 13. The way other people are scared of it, she was
Yeah.
like obsessed with it. So like all the staircases had 13 stairs.
Yeah.
And like you would see like number 13s like carved into things, and I thought it was a pretty cool
It's very interesting.
tour that we paid with our Girl Scout cookie money in the fifth grade.
Our superstitions do something for us. Even if they're maddening, like even if they're maddening to the point of the extreme or the obsessive compulsive, like people that I have a mild form of OCD where I pick with fingers the skin on my thumbs. It's disgusting. It's called dermatillomania. So maybe I do, is that a superstition of sorts where it's like, it's more of a calming mechanism, but like some people do more ritualistic things, like touching things certain amount of times so they feel okay, like to move on, and things that to us seem ridiculous, but they're not to them. And it's sort of the same concept with superstitions. Like there's different levels of how you practice them, but we all do them in this country. Like we all blow out candles on birth. Most everybody, I would think, except for my friend Danica.
Jehovah's don't do candles.
She's from Denmark. So in Denmark, which I really want to do, she told me that they don't do the candles, but they make an effigy. I think I told you this before. They make it shaped like you, the cake shaped like you, and then they cut off the head and they go, ah, they scream. Isn't that amazing? Literally, that's the birthday tradition. So it's not everybody.
Is that just her family, or
No,
is
that's
it like a
Danish
Denmark thing?
Yeah, it's a Danish
thing.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Have mercy.
I love it. I love it. It's so wacky.
I'm gonna have to find the origin of that.
I know. I need to. We'll figure it out.
Oh my god.
I'll have to ask the meaning of that. But
this was a fun topic.
Oh yeah.
Tell us.
This book though, I figured we could just flip through and I could read some very random ones that we've never even heard about. So this is a book. I got this from a used bookstore here called the Iliad bookstore. We love them. Treasury of Superstitions by Claudia Delis, or Delis. I do not know. And this is basically a giant dictionary of random superstitions. I'm going to flip through them and just see what comes up because
do a little
they're
bibliomancy.
Categorized. Yeah, let's do a little bibliomancy. That's
also, if y'all have your own superstitions from your family or communities, drop them in the comments because we would love to hear.
The Widow's Peak. This is the chapter called The Animal Human. An ancient superstition holds that a woman born with a V-shaped hairline will be a young widow. Oh, that's why it's called a widow's peak? If she marries and will also remarry soon after. This belief persisted because the hairline makes her outstandingly attractive to the opposite sex. In contrast to the less fortunate woman born with ordinary hairlines. Wow.
You know what's so wild about that is like so many people get like hair replacement surgery to like deal with that. I don't know. Mine are high
It's
back.
very like Eddie Munster.
Does that mean I'll be a widow soon?
No, you don't have.
I have been using rosemary
is
oil.
Like pointy.
Yeah, my dad had a widow's peak. He looked like Eddie Munster. Yeah,
we like that.
That's so
very
funny.
odd.
Oh my god! But you know what? My dad had a widow's peak, and my mom is a widow.
It's for women only. Ear superstitions. If a person's ear is pulled, especially a child's, when he is told to do something, he will not forget it. Oh.
Oh, that seems
abusive.
like abuse.
These are all very antiquated. Ear ringing means either good or bad news. Ringing or burning in the ear generally signifies that the person is being talked about.
That's
validated. Oh. Okay. Bread superstitions.
That's yes.
I'm here. I'm here for you. Although the ancient Egyptians are generally given credit for the invention of bread, thank you, some 6,000 years ago, it is also known that the Swiss lake dwellers of the New Stone Age ground bread folklore. Okay. What? Oh, one of the outstanding modern superstitions about bread is that it is fattening. The notion came about in America some years ago when the slim waistline became fashionable. Bread practically became taboo in a woman's diet, although dietitians agree that bread judiciously used is not any more fattening than any other carbohydrate. That is kind of true.
Eat the bread. Life is short.
Bread.
Eat the bread.
Bread's like, oh, I'm giving up bread. You know, people do say that. Oh, I'm trying to just give up bread and cheese, and then they're sad.
Yeah. It's because, like,
unless you're gluten.
The United States is like so big on diet culture and policing the way a woman's body should look.
Oh, yeah.
Like, think of our poor
Damn.
moms in the 90s all went through, like, Atkins and, like, amphetamines and Weight Watchers and all that shit.
Wow.
Yeah, fuck the villainization of bread.
Yeah, that.
Eat the bread.
I want bread right now.
Life is short. Eat the bread.
What? Feed a cold and starve a fever.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah. That's
It
something my
is
nana would say.
A word-to-mouth formula handed down from ancient times. He who is fool enough to feed a cold will have to starve a fever. Is that kind of like the wet hair thing?
I guess so. So, like, it means when you have a cold, you're supposed to eat. Like, make sure they're eating enough.
Oh.
And if you have a fever...
Oh, and starve the... I see.
Exactly. You want to be, like,
feed the
drinking
cold and
water, like, sitting in baths, that type of thing instead.
Oh, that's just kind of good advice. Oh, there's a lot of these... Oh, no, we won't read that one. Wow. There's a lot that are just, like, photograph of disliked person upside down or face to wall. Many young people turn the picture of someone they dislike to the wall or upside down to punish him. Wow.
Sounds like witchcraft.
To give him a headache. That's witchcraft. But there's a fine line.
Exactly. What's
Point
the difference,
being,
really?
there's a fine line between having a widow's peak and being a sorceress. Okay.
Fine line.
This is so interesting. I just love this so much.
Superstitions are fun.
Yeah.
And they make life interesting.
Rabbit's feet crossing.
Oh,
your-
yeah. Rabbit's feet.
Yeah.
Yes.
They lived underground. They're closer to the gods. They must be good to have on hand, you know? Have their feet to travel.
I read that, like, in the... Gosh, I can't remember what time period it was.
A long
but,
time
like,
ago in a galaxy.
long time
far,
ago
far
in a
away.
galaxy far away. But I've also read that, like, the rabbit foot thing might come from, like, African American folk tales, specifically around, like, Brer Rabbit, and how Brer Rabbit was the one who was always able to, like, trick the oppressor and, like, get out of trouble and help other people get out of trouble. And so, like, having a rabbit's foot was lucky because you'd be able to escape harm and escape trouble too. And then I read something about how, like, people would peddle them with different, like, rituals, and it had to be like, and it had to be everything bad. So, like, instead of like, I harvest this on a full moon under the stars, full moon in Virgo, like, it was like, it has to be fucking like blood moon eclipse at the cemetery on a train track. Like,
on a train
the
track.
worse the circumstances were when the bunny was killed, like, the more effective the rabbit's foot was.
Okay.
Kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, because these things...
Like, by a one-eyed sorcerer.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, what is the actual origin of some of these things, too? Like, these are just things we're able to research relatively easily. Like, what is the... Like, which ones of these are twisted around? Like, what do we not know about? Just like...
Or do
just
they
like-
come from different places?
Yeah, or they
and
come
just
from-
people all over the world notice similar things? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's very cool. There's so many different things. I'm trying to think of Chinese ones. Babe, can you think of a Chinese one?
Spirits bounce away from you.
Oh,
I like that.
that's a good one.
You could say it.
Why don't we do that? Oh, they can't hear you.
You don't want to step on the mic?
Okay, Mike told me one right now off camera that in Chinese culture, if you hang mirrors over doorways, it's used to, like, bounce spirits back away from you so they don't come at you. That's a cool one.
I like that a lot.
The breaking of the mirror.
Oh, yeah, breaking a mirror.
Breaking a mirror.
7 years of bad luck.
7 years of bad luck.
Uh-huh.
If you break a mirror, which, if you think about mirrors, it's like a part of yourself is in the mirror or can be and capture. If you break it, that would be bad for you, I guess. That makes sense.
Also
7 years.
dangerous.
Also, glass
everywhere.
is scary. It's just an
Scary.
unpleasant thing to break.
Yeah. Like, it's I kind of wonder if it's one of those things where you don't want your kids to, like, break it because it's expensive and a mess.
Yeah. Like your dishes.
So you're like, oh, you get bad luck if you do that.
Like, oh, you're gonna 7 years bad luck. Because I do think breaking mirrors
there's a
can
mystical
be,
element to it.
I don't think it's
too.
bad luck. I think
Yeah.
it's interesting.
It's shit luck when it happens, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. No.
Have you ever broken a mirror?
I was just thinking, me and my mom did when I was hanging up my
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I was just like, that didn't want to be with me. It was a vintage mirror, and it was really cool. It was like a really exaggerated wooden, like ornate kind of mirror, and we hung it at the wrong like angle, and then because I hung it like on the handle part, but like in the middle of it was not a good place to hang it, and it fell because it was top heavy and it broke. And I was like, man. And I was like, all right.
Its time has passed.
But I didn't feel like it was bad luck because,
Yeah.
I don't know if things could get any worse. Oh, maybe they probably. I'm just kidding.
It's pretty bad out there right now.
Pretty bad. I don't know. So I was like, that was an accident. But I did, yeah. There's like in December, broken mirror. Oh, no.
I'm glad you survived.
But clearly that's not a superstition that I really hold weight to.
Right. The person has to subscribe to it for it to have power.
Like a curse, any good curse,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of it is in the head. That's the perpetuating part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
This was fun.
This is really fun.
Yes.
Yes. Do we have a question today?
We have one question.
Let's do a question.
A question. Someone has a question. Okay, here it is. What is your opinion on spreading ashes? Does it support the spirit?
Ooh.
That's a cool question.
I don't want to be cremated personally because
Tell me why. Tell me why.
it's allegedly bad for the environment.
Oh, right, because of all the way they do it.
The stuff and
the
things.
smoke, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, and I just, I don't know. I think like maybe just throwing my body in the ground and letting it do its thing is cool.
Yeah.
Maybe like a coyote gets a snack.
Or I become like fungi or something.
But I do think that any ritualistic act with remains, I do have my dog's ashes, like I think that does hold weight. I mean, it's literally like the person's being in a nice, form that you can take with you anywhere. I do think there's like spiritual weight to doing things and to spreading. But yeah, in terms of like helping the spirit, what do you think about like it, other than helping the person that's doing it or like having a ritualistic ceremonial aspect? Like, what do you think about
I think
that
if it
aspect
honors
of
the
it?
person's desires, then it's supportive of the spirit. And
Yeah.
like there's so many different cultures around the world where they do like funeral pyre.
Yeah, I want that. It's not going
I
to
think
happen,
it's so
but
radical.
I want to go out like a Jedi or like
yeah.
Sam and Dean on a
Flames, burnt like the Wicker Man.
Supernatural, like a hunter.
But I think that honoring the wishes of the deceased is the best way to support the spirit, whether it's through cremation or I heard that there's this thing where they can take your ashes and turn you into a diamond.
Ooh,
I want to be a lap diamond.
I want to.
And my descendants, like,
That's
like,
rad.
wear me on their. This is my great grandmother.
Period. Not grandmother's ring.
This is my grandmother.
Grandmother.
That's the sentence. I think that would be fucking cool. Maybe they can make me into some earrings. I don't know. I have 2 kids. Make 2 rings.
That's rad.
I'm tiny. They'd be small. Like, I think that's cool. Oh, maybe one could be Brian. One could be me.
I love it.
Brian wants to be buried, but he's like, no, he wants to be cremated except for his one leg that's not tattooed. He wants that buried in the ground.
That's
I was
hilarious.
like, my dude, we're not going to find somebody who's going to like Dexter you.
You know,
You got to think.
I don't have human offspring, so what I want is to have. I want to be burned alive. I want to be burned in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And I want them to be so traumatized by the experience that they never forget me. I'm not kidding. I'm putting it in my will. I want to be burned and I want to be pushed out into the ocean like a Norse.
I was
like
going to say
some
that's
fucking
Viking-ish,
Valhalla
right?
shit.
Valhalla,
And
yeah.
then come on. Who would forget that?
We come from the land of the ice and
And
snow.
Yeah. That's what I want.
That's cool. Cool.
My legacy will live on in trauma
But
and
you
PTSD.
remember me forever.
Yes, absolutely. Come on now. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
makes sense.
I mean, I think just doing what the person wants is probably the best way to support
Yeah,
the
because if you
spirit.
don't, if they didn't want to be cremated and you cremated them, I don't know.
Okay, here's a funny story. My dad wanted to be cremated. My mom decided to do a casket burial.
Oh.
Funeral comes, we do the church thing, funeral procession, get to the cemetery, the grave's open, and my mom was like, this is not his plot. I had to watch my dad's coffin get taken out of the hearse,
No.
brought over to the plot, and I was like, this is not his plot. And they had to wheel it back up, wheel it back into the hearse, and we didn't get to see his body go in the ground. And then I tried to get Monday off so that I could watch them bury him in the right plot. My boss was like, you really need to come sell some fast fashion clothes, Diane.
Holy mother.
So my uncle went and like reported back once he was in the ground. But I'm like, he just want to be cremated, dog.
Wow. Wow.
He also, I started laughing because
Right.
I know that he would have thought it was hilarious.
That is really funny.
But everyone was like looking at me like, this bitch is crazy.
You're like, oh, I get
They
it.
fully lost it.
He's like, joke's on you, bitches.
Literally.
That's really funny.
But it was also a little bit traumatizing.
bit.
Anyway, the point of this story is honor the wishes of the person who is passing.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating.
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 So there you have it.
Oh my God.
Thank you for that question. It was fun.
Thank you.
And thank you, Laura.
Oh my God. Thank you for listening to Third Eye Bind.
Be sure to leave us a message on the Third Eye line. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. You can follow the podcast at Third Eye Bind Pod on Instagram. There, submit your questions via the Third Eye line by sending us a voice message or text DM. The show is available wherever you listen to podcasts and for you to watch on YouTube. Get early access to episodes and even monthly one-on-one sessions with us by joining our Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/thirdeyebind. Third Eye Bind is produced and edited by Mike Realm. Hosted by Caitlin Grania and Loretta Wong. Music by Mike Realm. Set design by Loretta Wong. You can find Loretta on Instagram at LadyMoonCo and Caitlin at Caitlin.Grania.